Thank you, Melanie. Good morning. I'm Sue Livingston, your celebrant today, joined by Reverend Peter Lutton, yet another retired minister in our midst. We're so lucky. He and wife Linda Burke have been part of Buff for 6 years, and Peter volunteers with the Bellingham Food Bank and participates in the Parks Department's Saturday work parties to feel engaged and useful, as well as being engaged and useful here. I'm grateful to be gathered with you all in the room, in the Zoom, in the late November Pacific Northwest weather and beauty this morning. I'm glad to gather in the resonance of gratitude for Thursday's Thanksgiving, for Friday's Native American Heritage Day, and for this community that welcomes all who come in the spirit of goodwill. Thank you all for all that you do and for being here now. We acknowledge that here, this land, is the traditional territory of the Lummi and Nooksack peoples. Their presence is imbued in these mountains, valleys, waterways, and shorelines. May we nurture our relationship with our Coast Salish neighbors and our shared responsibilities to their homelands where we mutually abide. Now, Melanie will share with us a contemporary arrangement of a piece written in 1551 called Old Hundredth by, is it Genevieve Salter, Melanie?
It's from the Genevan Psalter of 1551.
What is the Genevan Psalter?
It's just a collection of hymn tunes.
Oh, thank you.
You'll recognize this, everyone.
Beautiful. Thank you, Melanie. This morning, Peter's going to light the chalice in thanks for the abundance of depth that this community offers me. Depths of encouragement and authenticity that open my heart and imagination to community, both in this sanctuary and beyond its walls. And as we light our flaming chalice, our symbol of Unitarian Universalist tradition, chalices are being lit in congregations across the world. So many lights of encouragement.
Yeah, I hope they have better wicks than me. That might be my fault. That blew it out last week. Oh, well.
Put the little one up in there.
We'll manage.
And now please join me in saying our covenant. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service gives it life, celebrating our diversity and joined by a quest for truth. We work for peace and honor all creation. This is our covenant. And now rise as you're able to sing. The Lady of the Season's Laughter, Liz Roberts, will lead us. Number 51 in the gray hymnal. Lady of the season's laughter, in the summer's warmth be near. When the winter follows after, teach our spirits not to fear. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning year. Sister of the evening starlight, in the falling shadows near, live among us till the far light of tomorrow's dawning gray. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning day. Mother of the generations, in whose love all life is worth, everlasting celebrations bring our labors safe to birth. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning earth. Goddess of all time's progression, stand with us when we engage, hands and hearts to end oppression, writing history's fairer page. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning age.
When I was 7 or 8 years old, I got really mad at my parents. I was just in a bad mood. You know, you sometimes just been in a bad mood. And it all came to a head at dinner because it was chicken. And my piece of chicken had this little gooey bit on it. You know how chicken sometimes has this little gooey bit on it. Well, I did not want to eat that chicken. In fact, that made me not want to eat the Brussels sprouts or anything. And I was complaining about the meal, and my folks were being patient as they could be. And finally, my sister, who was 3 years older than me, said, I ate all my chicken, and I snapped. I just snapped and grabbed my gooey gob of chicken and hurled it at her and said, well, you can eat that. I got a light on. You can eat that. And that was the end of it. I was banned from the dinner table. I was told to go to my room and you don't come back until you're ready to apologize. Well, I can be fairly firm in my determination and persistent in my ways, especially when I'm completely wrong. and don't know any way to dig myself out of that situation. So I stayed in my room through the rest of dinner. And the next night, and the next night. And my mother on the third night said, "Will you be dining alone tonight?" And I said, "Yes, I will." And I kind of liked it at first. I mean, they did feed me. I brought food in. And I could sit on my bed and I didn't have to look at my sister, and it was good. But after a while, I started to think I was missing out on something. I was missing out on something, and I felt like, ugh. So finally, about a week and a half later, my mother, when she said, "Will you be dining alone tonight?" I said, "No, I want to come back to the table." So that night, before dinner was served, I apologized to my sister for throwing gooey chicken at her, and she said, "Well, it's okay." And I apologized to my mother and my father for having been so rude and just terrible. And my mother said, "You're forgiven," and my father said, "We missed you." And then we ate dinner, and that was it. Nothing more was said of it at all, although my sister did smirk at me a little bit. But I didn't bite. I just let it go. And I learned at that point that even though I had been getting enough food, nourishment, food, I was hungry for the conversation at the table. Now, it is perfectly appropriate and fine to eat alone. People do it all the time, and I've done it for a couple of years on end when I was single, and I could take a book and go to a restaurant and not feel weird at all, But there is something about the conversation and the telling of stories and lies and the sharing of ideas and, of course, the sharing of bites of other people's desserts that really feed me. They feed me. So that's all I wanted to say.
We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go.
For our time of meditation and prayer, I'd like to offer this poem by Universalist minister Max Kapp, entitled Gratitude. Often I have felt that I should praise my world for what my eyes have seen these many years and what my heart has loved. And often I have tried to start my prayer, "Dear Earth," I say, and then I pause to look once more. And soon I am bemused and far away in wonder. So I never get beyond "Dear Earth." Let us be still and quiet together.
We offer these thoughts and prayers, spoken and unspoken, in the name of every child of every age in every land. Each is the hope and the light of the world. Blessed be. Amen.
Thank you, Melanie. This next poem was written by a UU layperson titled A Communion of People. Our stay here is a communion of people with ideas and feelings to share, and with time to learn the ideas and feeling of each other. A communion of people who are seeking to live their lives as fully as possible, who welcome this opportunity to live with others, to learn from them, to teach them, to help them, to be helped by them, to have fun with them, to love and be loved by them. A communion of people who, if they cannot welcome, at least recognize the need for struggle, for anguish, for disappointment, and for sorrow, and who hope somehow to reach that ultimate commitment, which will give their own lives tremendous meaning and gladness.
I love Thanksgiving. And I've always felt there's something forced about Thanksgiving. A voice in my head keeps telling me that I should be more grateful than I am, that I should be grateful. And another voice from the committee of my mind tells me, who are you to tell me that I should feel grateful? And the curmudgeon, who's kind of like the chair of the committee of my mind, says, yeah, you don't have to be grateful if you don't want to be grateful. You don't even have to be happy if you don't want to be happy. And even though at Thanksgiving, or any time really, when my life may be going really pretty darn good, there's another pessimist voice in my committee that says, well, enjoy it while you can, because it's not gonna last. So with opinionated friends like my committee to guide me, you can perhaps understand how, as a minister for over 30 years, I've sometimes felt this subdermal itch of hypocrisy and guilt regarding my celebrations of Thanksgiving. Nonetheless, when Paul asked me to, on Wednesday, to preach for him this morning, I was glad to help, and I went straight to my proverbial sermonic barrel, thinking, wow, am I grateful to have all these old sermons. And I look back through my Sunday Thanksgiving services, and in some of them I marveled at the pilgrims' resiliency, that in the face of having lost fully half of their 100 people in that first year, still they were able to give thanks. In others, I spoke about that kind of gratitude we feel that in spite of all the terrors and travails of life, we're grateful. In spite of it, there's still some joy, some beauty, some hope to pull us through those hard times. In other sermons, I reflected upon the gratitude that we have not only for what we have received and been given in life, but also a gratitude for what has not been lost. In my sermon barrel, I found a poem that pretty much sums up 30 years of Thanksgiving. Another Postponement of Disaster by Henry Taylor. Banging out the kitchen door, I kicked before I saw it a thick glass baking dish I'd set out for the dogs the night before. It skidded to the top step, teetered, and tipped into an undulating slide from step to step, almost stopping halfway down, then lunging on toward the concrete. And I froze to watch it splinter when it hit. Instead, it kissed the concrete like a skipping stone and rang to rest in the frost-stiffened grass. Retrieving it, I suddenly felt my neck cords letting go of some great pain like a mask of tragedy. I washed the dish and put it in its place, then launched myself into a rescued day. Who can't relate? We've all had some experience like the poet describes, the near miss, the potential lump that turned out to be nothing, the flight that we caught only because it was delayed, a tragedy averted. We have all been grateful at some point that it didn't happen to me or mine. We might not have said it out loud, but thank goodness that didn't happen to me or mine. And when something bad happens to ourselves or to our friends, we think and even we tell them, well, you know, could have been worse. Or as my friend's grandmother used to say, there are worse things happening out at sea. Yes, indeed, those were great services. They were great services, but I couldn't preach one of them today because I have grown skeptical of gratitude that is rooted in the conditional or the transactional. Gratitude that is dependent upon others' suffering or my own dumb luck. Because gratitude is not conditional, it is foundational. Conditional gratitude, which is common and easy, casts a nasty shadow. Such gratitude is, at some level, rooted in other people's suffering. Now, we don't consciously go around hard-heartedly hoping that some tragedy befalls someone else in order that we can laugh when they crash on the ice. But when we plant our gratitude in luck and happenstance, it just yields a meager harvest. I think that we need to question the spiritual and ethical health of such a footing for our own feelings of being blessed. Because gratitude is not about things and circumstances. Gratitude is a basic human need, an essential response to our existence, a central aspect of our relationship to the universe, to the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are part. My gratitude must be rooted in me, in my heart and my soul. Sustaining and enduring gratitude is an expression of who I am, not a reaction to the exigencies of my life. I am learning. I am learning to experience gratitude independent of the specifics, the happenstances of my days. I certainly acknowledge the obvious and real blessings that I have received. They are, however, vehicles for my gratitude and not its source or cause. Zen Buddhism tells a story of a disciple who asks the holy woman Sono what needed to be done to put the human heart at rest. And this holy woman responds, every morning and every evening, whenever anything at all happens to you, just keep on saying, thank you for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever. Whenever anything happens to you, thank you for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever. So the disciple practiced this for a full year. He returned to Sono disappointed because nothing had changed in his spirit. His heart was still unsettled. What you told me to do didn't work, he said. What should I do now? And Sono immediately replied, thank you for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever. And this being a Zen Buddhist story, the disciple was immediately enlightened and returned home with great joy. Now, I haven't received the enlightenment of the Buddha, and so in me that story, it's a bubble or two off level. It's not quite right. And it points me in a very good direction nonetheless. Our hearts can be at rest. We can be peaceful inside and compassionate outside when we are able to remove ourselves from the center of everything and let go of the need or the desire or the habit of weighing everything as good or bad, worthy of thanks or not. Once the disciple got beyond the circumstances of his life and discovered life itself, he was able to say, thank you for everything. I have no complaints whatsoever. He wove his gratitude into his life. Being thankful was life. I mentioned at the beginning of this ramble that I used to praise the pilgrims for giving thanks, even though they had suffered so mightily in the first year on these shores. And there is no denying that the Pilgrims' arrival and survival enabled uncounted death and devastation amongst Native American populations and cultures. But still, there's something in the Pilgrims that makes me wonder. Was the Pilgrims' gratitude for that first Thanksgiving dependent upon their circumstances? Were they thankful because they survived? Or could it be that they survived because they were grateful? This day and every day, may we know peace. Shalom, salam, amen, and blessed be. Let us, closing hymn? Oh, thank gosh. Wow, don't move on.
All the many ways you show up and engage are deeply appreciated. Your generosity strengthens Buff's reach to share abundance and care with those that need it the most, within this circle and through its web of community partnerships. For those of you joining us on Zoom, there are several ways that you can share with Buff. Directions will be on your screen. And as Melanie plays, we've got a story to tell the nations. Will our ushers please come forward? And I thank you all in advance for giving what you're able today. Thank you, Melanie. Please rise as you are able. Liz will lead us in singing hymn number 131 in the gray hymnal, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road of
Thank you, Liz and Melanie. It is good to gather and good to go forward in thankfulness with new reflections Peter's given us on thankfulness and gratitude. Good to be filled with the gifts that inspire us, being in this community and this beautiful wild place. I invite you to take in a deep breath of enoughness with me. And in that spirit, I'd like to share a poem by Wendell Berry. The Arrival. Like a tide, it comes in, wave after wave of foliage and fruit, the nurtured and the wild. Out of the light to this shore, in its extravagance, we shape the strenuous outline of enough. And now let's circle round to sing hymn 155, Circle Round for Freedom. Smaller circle today. Oh, check your ears. An earring was dropped. It looks like mother and pearl. We found the owner. Great. I have it for you. No? Oh, it looks like mother of pearl inside silver, like a seashell.